Fernwind und Wetter nicht mehr mitspielen.
Really how it works, whether you're odd quest warrior or just regular odd warrior. You just generally don't have enough. First of all, you can just not hit the removal at the start of the game. If they stick a mountain giant Twilight Drake, you just get beat down. That's sometimes how you can lose. But also I find the sustainability of even Warlock, there's just enough threats to get the job done. Especially for cooldown techniques, which I imagine losing them will be very anxious to find.
I have to say, we've had some really exciting series so far in the Hearthstone Global Games Finals, both yesterday and today. The first series of the day, that's Softle and Raven, we just finished casting, Norway versus China. I could not believe what I was watching through most of that series. That was some incredible Hearthstone being played. Yeah, as you would definitely expect from both of those teams. We were talking to Admirable in the crowd actually about it. He's also
Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora.
The Admiral himself, exactly, about the play from China. I totally agree with him. China, although they haven't had the best year individually in the HCT circuit, as a team, something just clicks. The way they work together, putting their minds together, maybe the fact that they're not alone on stage up there, it just works for them. And I hope we get to see the same thing.
I think it's a very different style. I think all the members of Team New Zealand, they have their very distinct personalities. Ting Tong is the meme player, as they all agree. He plays the fun decks.
Yeah.
He brings something a little bit quirky to the team. Jack Attack is a confident one. Like you said, he has a tour stop victory. He's got every reason to be. Mage is the quiet one. He just sort of lurks in the background, but he is one of the best Hearthstone players on the team and in the world, I think it's safe to say. And I think Pathra sort of keeps everyone together.
And I want to say also, because I like the point you're bringing up, as you know, we're kind of glossing over these early turns, nothing too important happening. But Ting Tong being the kind of meme player, that's not a slight to him at all. You get some players who are incredibly strong tournament players. Like the biggest one that springs to mind for me is Tice. We know that he is an incredibly strong Hearthstone player, but almost due to the fact that on stream he plays these slightly weird off-meta decks to entertain a very large audience, it gives him just a better understanding of matchups that most people wouldn't know how to play.
Yeah, I mean, similar thing can be said about Jackie Chan.
Sure.
He even has been known to bring some quirky decks to some major tournaments and win them.
Oh, yeah.
So there's definitely something to be said there. And again, in something like the Hearthstone Global Games, in a format where you could bring these minds together, these different strategies together, you can really make some magic.
The wild card element.
Right.
As this game is just starting to get rolling now after the ceremonial pressing of the hero powers to get things rolling, Patra will be able to start throwing down these threats. And this is a pretty big facet of even Warlock play.
Giant or Drake?
Giant or Drake? The classic question. Do you go for the higher immediate pressure play of Mountain Giant, or do you try and bait out the premium removal in the form of Shield Slam, obviously primarily, and then follow up with the Mountain Giant? And I think it's becoming increasingly clear that against the control-ish decks that have a lot of answers, Drake first, try and bait out the removal, and then you follow up with Giant.
Yep, that does seem to be the way things are run. Skulking Geist is very important when it comes to Giants as well. Obviously, ripping out the Shield Slams from the deck can be a factor, it can be a reason to pull back on those Mountain Giants. But there's no Skulking Geist found in the hand just yet for Patra. She's going to have to dig for that one.
Not really much good removal at all. Grace coming down here though, with or without the Skulking Geist being found. No Super Collider, Brawl, Reckless Flurry, any of the premium ways to clear off the board, which means unless they're able to get a very strong foothold onto this board in the form of Dynamatic and Zilliax, I suppose primarily, they are going to be struggling to fight back against the aggression that Patra will inevitably throw down.
Razor's a pretty good defense up at the moment, though. Patra's not going to be pushing through too much damage immediately.
Yes.
I think he just has to slam down a Giant this turn, just to amp up this pressure.
Der typische Code heute, ja.
The more defenses the warrior gets, and the less effective these Giants
Ich bin trotzdem bescheuert, warum das in Englisch steht.
Ja, es ist allgemein bei Englisch. And also the fear of hero power into Reckless Flurry, which does look like it's leading for New Zealand to go with the Spellbreaker instead. Starting with the possibility for double Giant next turn, which has its positives and negatives. It's very weak to Super Collider unless they're positioning their minions correctly.
Oh no, they can't get double giant next turn because the first one.
Oh
was
yeah,
three,
of course.
the
Sorry,
second
my
was
apologies. Yeah.
Und das andere sieht da so klein aus so
But
nebenbei.
even so, holding these threats back, saying this is a good
Figuren waren
enough
das
of a threat. And I think
Ja,
if
Figuren
their
sind
hand
natürlich
had
das
cards
Größte.
like Hooked Reaver, Lich King in hand, they would be much more willing to start throwing out these threats. But this clearly indicates from New Zealand they want to take this game a little bit further into the later stages of the game, which, again, has its positives and it has its negatives. You are not going to be winning in fatigue because New Zealand has been pretty consistently tapping in this matchup to draw themselves further into the deck. So they're going to have to do something. They are undeniably the aggressors.
But for now, Ray's able to continue to play quite a defensive game.
Bitch King, wie hat auch jeder den Bitch King?
Is going to struggle to hit the face this turn. It is going to be all about
Weil viele haben immer
the
irgendwie die
timing
gleichen
on the
Packs.
Giants, I think, and just how much work that Super Collider can do. That's why playing against Odd Warrior is so difficult. Playing around Brawl, Shield Slam, and Super Collider all at the same time is just impossible.
And with, this is what I remember Saiyan was saying on the recent Watchstone of just Super Collider is just the most infuriating card. Just trying to play around that card is impossible. The fact that it flew so well under the radar for most players during the card reviews is quite staggering.
It has a great animation and sound effect, though.
It does have a great animation sound effect, but why doesn't the hammer go both ways if it's swinging a different way? Like,
Well, it does have a bit of a turn. Like, I think there's a slight alteration. But no.
not good enough for me.
Yep. Well, New Zealand eventually deciding, yep, it's time to slam down one of these giants. Gotta start dealing that damage somehow. This is interesting play into the Super Collider, though. I'm wondering about the positioning, I guess.
Well, it means they don't have to taunt up their giant
Oh.
as well, which they don't want to do. Because they want that as the kind of the battering ram, just protected so it can smack into the face and start removing that.
Zu viel Schokolade.
And like, you know, it's kind of better if it hits the giant than the...
Oh yeah, if the Super Collider hits the giant, it doesn't get killed this
Exactly.
turn. If it hits the Sun
Ich
Fury,
glaube nach dem
I'm sure
Eindruck,
it
dass
dies,
ich
but
heute
giant's
nichts
still there. I guess this is
Auch nicht Süßes am besten.
this means that every
Ich habe da
scenario is
jetzt
fine.
schon wieder zu viel gehabt eigentlich.
And the other big threats being picked up of Patra does now mean I like the use of the mounted giant. I'm still not even convinced that it was right to go for the Spellbreaker on turn 4 anyway instead of the giant. Like it is just good to get that card rolling a little bit earlier, especially when it's not so weak to to the Super Collider. Sorry, they've shown they maybe don't have a shield slam as well. But I do like now starting to actually get the threats out of hand.
Probably worth pointing out that quest is getting closer and closer. I think it's on 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which could just be a pretty quick turnaround for Race, because this is, although this is Odd Quest Warrior, it still harkens back pretty heavily to the traditional play with Odd Quest Warrior, any kind of warrior that runs the quest, where if you haven't used your removal early, you have the benefit of being able to use your removal to line up the hero powers to go face after you've removed all the minions every turn. Super Collider is going to do a fantastic job of that, I would imagine.
Quiek.
That's something New Zealand and Patra are going to have to think about every single turn. They have to consider that the Super Collider is there. They don't have any... Oh no, well, they have the ooze on the far left. So I guess on the plus side, if the Super Collider does come down, it's only going to deal the damage once. Damage! Wow, look at that. Oh. That is the most aggressive turn they could have made this turn.
Yeah, that is a weird play, because this plays really badly into Dynamatic. It plays pretty poorly into Shield Slam as well, because Hero Power Shield Slam still takes it out. Like, they can follow up with Lich King on the following turn, which I guess is their thinking of why they don't mind too much if this minion is removed. But is getting that 8 damage through to face really how they're winning this game? Isn't it by building up a board and slowly running their opponent out of removal?
So what's the worst case here? Probably just Dynamatic, right?
Yeah.
And then play the Lich King. Then a second Dynamatic is really bad. Shield Slam is really bad because if Dynamatic's being played, Tank Up is being played with it, which means next turn there'll be 8 armor. I've got to agree with you, Derek. I'm struggling to see the logic with this one.
And Well, I suppose that if we actually look objectively at how the other plays would have shaped out, it probably ends up with having to play a giant next to your other giant, which is the last thing you want to do in this matchup because of the power of Super Collider just completely neutralizing two of your biggest threats. So maybe due to the positioning, they thought this was just the only way they leave themselves invulnerable to Super Collider. Because again, this is what it's like to play against Odd Warrior. You just have to pick your poison. Are we weak to Brawl, or are we weak to Super Collider, or Dynamatic, or Shield Slam, or Mind Control Tech? You can't play around everything at once. And while this played very poorly around Dynamatic and Shield Slam, it had the obvious benefit of getting 8 damage through to face, which is not insequential. It's pretty important.
Giant Reaver is okay here. It wouldn't just outright lose to the Super Collider, but because the Dynamatic would have to trade in as well, but it's still quite weak to it.
Pretty bad.
So Super Collider gets played, but then the Dynamatic trades in.
Yeah.
Patra can start next turn by playing the Ooze. It does still leave New Zealand ahead on the board, even if there is a Super Collider. I guess that is the thinking behind this one.
Yeah. And again, you know, we're in the mindset, I suppose, where we have Cast Division. We can see they do have Super Collider, whereas from Patra's side, if you ignore Race's hand, if they don't have Super Collider, this is looking great.
That's true, but they have been playing around it so far, and it comes to a point where if you play around it for so long, you have to expect that it's just there.
So maybe going for a play earlier that kind of baits out the Super Collider, and then they can go for the Ooze, because, you know, obviously they have the Ooze to stop any later hits, but if this was just a 5-mana card that dealt with both of these minions, Race would still be happy. It's done the work it needs to do here, and put Race pretty firmly in the lead.
But again, the Ooze plus a 6-drop just looks fine for this turn. It does put Patra slightly ahead on the board.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe they go for Lich King instead, because it's obviously a singular minion.
Ah, that's true.
So the Dynamatic doesn't matter, and then next turn they can go, you know, 2-drop, 2-drop, 6-drop.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. Shield
Just because
Slam.
there's very little that Lich King is weak to on this turn. Brazil are not running BGH. Yeah, I think this is the way.
So Shield Slam doesn't deal with it yet. Is there a Faceless in the Abonnieren?
I don't think so. Like, all the kind of weird tech tertiary cards have just fallen by the wayside here. Because they need to find room for, you know, the Tark Reaper's Phantom Malicious, Black Wolf, Pixie, like you see there as well, to get a little bit more value from the Ragnaros hero power.
That's quest complete though.
That's it.
For Brazil. So that Black Wolf Pixie is actually looking very strong. New Zealand down to 13 health.
And
So
they're just going for it right now, destroying their own weapon.
so we said there was no way to deal with the Lich King this turn, but that's gonna do it.
Genau.
As 5 damage goes straight into the dome. Brazil get to use their hero power twice next turn.
Ey, wird so durchgeprügelt.
Out of this one. I guess they could double Spellstone and heal for 14, but that only stalls the inevitable.
Wie lange geht das?
Yeah, that feels really, really bad. They have to start getting these minions on the board and hope to find Gul'dan as quick as possible, because as soon as the warrior hero power starts hitting any of your minions, the Gul'dan lifesteal hero power quickly starts to catch up. The swing that you gain is not that much worse than just 8 random damage.
Puff.
Yeah, gonna have to Spellstone just to
Ja,
restore
das war
enough
mir zu super.
health. But again, we are gonna get 2 procs of that hero power this turn. So Brazil,
Benutzen wird das wahrscheinlich
they've
eh
got a
nicht.
very strong chance of just outright winning the game this turn. If they use the Saronite to trade away the Acidic Swamp Ooze, and then the hero power goes face twice, that's a victory. The downside is if it hits the Twilight Drake once, the Drake survives, and then can value trade the Stonehill Defender. So there's a lot to think about.
So, I mean, they can quite happily start with the
Wird
first
so
hero power after I imagine, yes, they traded
dunkel.
the Saronite Chain Gang into the Ooze. Hero power, if it hits face, they can just go for the chance to get the lethal if they want to, or if it hits the Twilight Drake, probably just quite happily the Giant Hatchling.
Yeah, that seems good. Oh, it's gone face
Video!
Race.
Was machst du?
Oh, it's gone face though. Race. Brazil are definitely going to want to take this 50-50 now, I should imagine.
Oh, and it's not just the fact that it's for Brazil, it's for Race. His Odd Warrior, his Quest Warrior went for the longest time.
That's it.
Jagen.
Race. Team Brazil take the
Ja, ja,
first win in
Brasilien.
what
But I think the one
Komm. Nicht lange drum herumreden.
there were just so many things working in
Jäger gegen
favor of
Priester.
both teams. When you first look at this matchup, you would imagine that Death Rattle Hunter should just run away with it. The Control Priest is slower, they don't have that much removal early on, but somehow they just managed to dominate the board. They can steal the minions with Twilight Acolyte and Full Shadow Priest, all these tricksy priest plays that somehow pull things back. And then the big trigger they can just pull, a Psychic Scream to reset the board at any time, really does mean that Brazil is going to be afraid to make their most powerful plays, lest they just have it all Psychic Screamed back into their deck.
Right, it's weird because, as you say, on paper, it's anti-control deck versus a control deck. The outcome should be obvious, but it really isn't that simple. Skulking Geist, definitely one of the key cards for the Priest in this matchup, picked up there in the mulligan. That's going to be very good for Jack Attack.
Yeah, just a nice way to actually start locking down board control. After you've destroyed the Hunter's Marks, all of a sudden your Primordial Drakes, Twilight Drakes really start applying that little bit of pressure. Because like we saw yesterday, the Control Priest can't go on forever. They can't just remove for the whole game. They do eventually need to start dominating the board, which is exactly what they're going to be looking to do with this pretty nice early curve for the Priest. With this very nice starting curve for the Priest.
Yeah, it doesn't get all that much better than this. Northshire Cleric on 1, just like good old Mana Worm on 1, which, well, we're not going to experience that one again.
Yeah. Dream a dream of days gone by.
The Death Hunter Hunter, on the other hand, doesn't have much going for them at all yet. No Rexar picked up, but more importantly, no eggs. No cheap activators for the eggs either. They can't really get any of this aggression going.
This hand sucks.
Yeah, that is a much more succinct way of saying that.
That sucks, succinct.
Yep.
Way of putting it, yeah.
You gotta do one in the final.
Angekommen. Mini-Paket.
Wie Mini-Paket.
Das war Sarkasmus.
Now the use of the Power Shield is interesting here for New Zealand. They could go for it right now. If they're planning on going Coin Twilight Drake, they want to make their Northshire Cleric resistant to 3/3s now, because they're very likely to see either Mind Control Tech, Terrascale Stalker, one of the 3/3s, Gluttonous Ooze thrown down next turn. So going Power Word Shield here, Coin Twilight Drake is a consideration, I suppose. But in the end they're thinking, you know, I only end up with I think a 4/5 in that scenario off the Twilight Drake. They're going to go with the Acolyte of Pain instead, which I guess in its own way is still pretty strong against the 3/3s that could be played by the Hunter.
I'm wondering though, like, do you think Twilight Acolyte just gets slammed here? So that,
Was ist da drin?
okay.
Panzer?
I think I like the draw option here. You just draw two
Ne, das größte belegen die Figuren.
Is such a perfect
Wie viele Figuren sind da drin?
4.
Vier Figuren!
Ja, das ist schon
This
groß.
is exactly what New Zealand
Wo ist die hinstellen?
It would have been,
Ja, ich muss noch mal
either
umräumen.
could
Da
have come
oben.
down, at which point they could just
Gottes
attack and
Willen.
the egg to draw a card, or a spider bomb or 3/3 is played. Either way, they end up drawing a
Schön
whole
vorsichtig,
card
ja.
leading into Twilight Drake. This was pretty much every eventuality covered
Ja,
very
wirklich,
nicely
ja.
by New Zealand.
Die
These
Figuren
little
sind da alles,
does
ey.
get finished off next turn, but it's done its job. And actually,
hast
it's a
du-
very awkward returner to deal with the Acolyte Pain. Spider Bomb doesn't
das
have
ist-
a play dead to go
das
with
ist
it, so
tot,
it's not like
oder?
Brazil can just
Das
kill
ist
it
Krieg,
for free.
Tod,
New Zealand
Wut,
are going to be drawing
Vulgar.
cards.
And this is exactly what the Priest wants to be doing. This is what we didn't
Ja,
see
sind da noch die
from
extra Sachen,
Singapore's
die wir
game in
haben.
this matchup on the first day of the global
Sind da noch die
games.
kleinen Extra-Sachen.
Because they just had answers, there were way too many answers. They didn't draw them
Die
into
kommen, muss
their
jetzt
deck
gerade
to actually start
eingefügt
dominating
werden.
the board. This is what Jack Attack is going to be trying to do here. Does have
Ja,
a
jetzt
bit of that spider
Irgendwann nach
bomb,
Einzel,
but maybe
glaube ich.
we can just see
Ja?
Cabal Shadow
Ich
Priest
hatte keine
just
Meldung.
on the turn it's played. There's a lot of counterplay.
Wo gehen
Jack
meine
Attack
Latschen
can do
gesehen?
once again to start stealing the
Da.
Wegen nur wegen der Figuren, ey. 4 Figuren, ey.
Oh man, that would be a hell of a fight.
You're gonna, yeah, deal with the Acolyte, just allow New Zealand 2 draws and prevent this from getting even
später
further
dann.
out of control.
Später, wenn wir alle weint sind, dann geht's was auf.
There's not too many punishers available for New Zealand with this cleric.
Yeah, what do they do? The way that this Northshire Cleric goes insane with card draw is Wild Pyromancer, which would have done the same thing with the Acolyte of Pain anyway, and better, because you don't even have to heal at that point.
I mean, a second power with shield, I guess, would be pretty good for Jack Attack here. You could shield it and heal it. But it looks like he's just looking at the Duskbreaker play this turn. Twilight Drake actually doesn't seem too bad. I think Duskbreaker is slightly better because of all of the removal that Brazil has, the Spider Bombs, the Hunter's Mark, Candle Shots, etc. So putting a big minion on the board whilst not clearing Brazil's board is somewhat risky.
That's kind of true. I don't know, I think a lot of the standard plays that go down in the next turn, Duskbreaker's pretty weak to. Like, I suppose Witchwood Grizzly, if they play that fine, you're not too sad, but Carnivorous Cube isn't ridiculous to expect. Flanking Strike, Ziliax, there's quite a lot of plays that line up very nicely against the Duskbreaker. And I understand what you mean if you want to play Duskbreaker before the egg comes down. But I was looking at Twilight Drake on that turn, again, just to start dominating the board.
Brazil had also just played a flanking strike, so it probably wasn't a top consideration from New Zealand. But either way, this board is now the board that was the previous turn. So if this Twilight Drake does get dealt with easily, it's not quite as bad.
Yeah, but they would have traded the into the mind control deck, so it would have been the same size board as last turn, but whatever, it works out much the same anyway. However, they are that one turn closer to Katharina, because that is the way that Perna is really going to start wrestling this board back. Obviously, now also with the ability, because they're at 6 mana, to go Spider on Terrascale, which was
kommt der Janik und dann kommt schneller als erwartet.
I don't know, I just like developing the
wissen auch nicht, was sie machen.
a little bit earlier in this matchup.
So, liegt das heute nicht zufällig gesehen, Alter, dass da auf jeden Fall steht heute?
Having it now eventually developed as Twilight Drake, they'll have to ask themselves, what do we do about it? They do actually have the Spider Bomb Terrascale Stalker available to them now, which would not have been available to them last turn, which does confirm the point.
Das kann man immer sich noch angucken. Sehr erstaunlich.
And I'm struggling to find a reason not to make that play, honestly.
Weil die verkaufen ja immer noch virtuelle Tickets.
Which I think is really what they're
Naja, ich schätze mal, es wird für die Woche noch zu spät sein, weil die sind nächste Woche bestimmt nicht
Wie
mehr da.
gesagt, dass die Lootbox da, weil da sagt hier, dieses Goodie-Paket, das haben wir auch verbilligt dann, für 30 €.
Wollte kaum einer wirklich schenken.
Na, ich muss sagen, also ich wollte es ohne, weil es war nicht richtig drin oder so, was mir gefallen hat.
It was also really good to have the Hunter's Mark played before the turn.
Ja, alleine wegen der... Oh, jetzt habe ich es getan.
So I think all things considered, that was probably the way to go for Perna, because it's not like Spider-Bomb Terrascale Stalker is going to get worse. It's still just a very powerful play.
Now Brazil
Auf einmal kommt ein kleines Meerschwein raus.
Open before turn 9. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. Terrascale Stalker is available to the next turn. New Zealand might actually feel like they have to play Psychic Scream here.
Immer mitten in die Fresse rein. Immer mitten in die Fresse rein.
It's kind of good for them if their opponent is drawing Witchwood Grizzlies, because their opponent plays a 5-mana 3/3 and they're very happy.
And actually, Jack Attack is going to want the biggest Psychic Screams possible at the moment, because Deathstalker Rexar hasn't been played yet, which means it hasn't been drawn yet. And as long as Rexar's not drawn, Brazil's game is very slow.
I think this is a really heads-up spot from New Zealand as well. In the going for the Mind Blast there, they're realizing if they keep board next turn, if they don't have to Psychic Scream because of the fact that they're so ahead on board, they can make plays like this where they just trade. They make very, very heavy value trades, and then they go Alex Straza on 9, hit their opponent for 4, 6, 8 damage, whatever they have on the board, double Mind Blast to close out the game.
Okay, what do we think of Mossy Horror? Because that Twilight Acolyte would only have been played for one reason, right? So, Shadow Priest.
Ich hab nur eine genommen.
Yes, it doesn't deal with any of New Zealand's minions, but it does break out their own Witchwood Grizzlies and prevent them to spell Shadow Priest.
It's a very cute way.
It is cute.
Ninja
Alternatively, Perna can just play the Terrascale Stalker and think, maybe the Cabal Shadow Priest.
Komm, ihr sagt alles Ninja-Looter. Aber die Chips schon wieder alle weg sind.
Ich hab mir gerade meine Tüte genommen.
Da hat Mike auch gerade gesagt. Da hat sich Mama bestimmt auch eine Tüte gekalt, wa? Ich hab auch nur die eine. Und 4 hatte ich.
Hat jeder eine.
Ja, das ist ja auch gut.
Wann hast du dann?
Brazil realized that as well. I think this is a really good
Weil ich
spot.
dran.
But you just got to hope that the psychic screen isn't there.
Though, as we can all see, the psychic scream is there. So, okay, there are still good cards Brazil can draw. Again, in addition to Rexar, there is the Katharina. There's all the big old beasts that aren't Witchbook Grizzlies. So, it does need position. He does need to rely on the top of his deck, though.
Engine 4 Programmierung mit.
Wait, what? Hang on.
Genau.
Yeah, I mean,
Lerne
thinking about
programmieren
it.
mit
I honestly don't hate looking at alternate lines of play here, because Psychic Scream is when something goes really wrong. When you want to save that for the situation where you can't really win. As soon as you have any like kind of backup lines of play you can go for that maybe lead into an Alex Straza, I can respect the thinking.
And maybe that was the issue with yesterday's play, actually, is the Psychic Screams were used willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Whereas Jack Attack is really holding back here.
Real.
And I agree.
Alles ist real. Haben wir schon geschafft? Das zockst schon hier. Ein halbes Spiel durch.
Ja klar.
I think what it likely is if Jack Attack were to
Ich
play
warte.
Was?
Ich warte wohl.
Achso. Ja, ist der Mann und jetzt warten, ja.
Really quite badly, actually. He doesn't have a good answer. He doesn't have Anduin to fight back. You just have to start going Alex Straza to face, Mind Blast to face, at which point he might just be dying to a King Crush.
His hand is just starting to look so dry. Like Egg Terror Scale, that's great, but that's like the final push. And then if there is a Psychic Scream, game over.
That's it. And it's not like Perna, like we've seen from some players, kept a bunch of, you know, mediocre cards that maybe will be good. They threw away double Terror Scale Stalker just to look for Egg, to look for Keleseth, Katharina, Deathstalker Rexar as well. They went very heavily for the good cards in this matchup, but unfortunately they just didn't find them in time.
Wait.
As they start to finally wrestle back the board, we can see there's still myriad ways for Jack Attack to deal with this board. We could just see trade into Dustbreaker. Does a pretty good job of clearing off this board.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, Psychic Scream looks fine. There's one card in Brazil's hand.
Na, was machst du?
Deathstalker Rexar still hasn't been played. Do you think it's still too risky to play it?
I just think that New Zealand are in such a good spot that they need to think, what do we possibly lose to? And I think what they possibly lose to is Psychic Scream into exactly Katharina from their opponent.
Okay.
And if they go double trade into one of the Grizzlies, Dustbreaker, that leaves only a 3-5 on the board. The Spider-Man very likely clears off something not too important. Like there's a 2-1 Mossy Horror on board.
Yeah, it'll clear off the Mossy Horror or the Dustbreaker.
Which is fine, and then you just go Twilight Drake and you have a good board.
Yep.
I really like this. Ooh. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, this just leaves New Zealand with an even better board. It clears off the Dustbreaker. That's one of the better targets. For New Zealand, I mean. One of the worst targets for the Spider Bomb.
Nah.
Yeah, I guess this is better. I was still looking at going for the Twilight Drake just because it has a higher health total and is more likely to survive to attack through to face on the following turn. But with the pickup of Deathstalker Rexar, that all of a sudden means that Jack Attack's win condition of going Alex Straza through to the face with a couple of Mind Blasts isn't necessarily going to work anymore. Lifesteal Beasts can come down, Life Drinker, Tundra Rhino for that little bit of extra attack. This could be a very interesting game from here.
Yeah, I mean, let the game begin. A hero has been played. New Zealand still hasn't drawn their hero card, Shadow Reaper Anduin. The sooner they get that, the better. Given how close they were just to winning the game.
But Hoopbat is presented on Perna, which traditionally against a deck like Priest, which I guess isn't going to have too much presence on board, isn't that impactful. But if you get yourself a lifesteal in combination with that Bloat Battle, maybe a poisonous effect, that could be the way to steal back the board that Brazil is looking for. And this is a tough choice for them.
They went the
with the lifesteal, yeah. I like this a lot. That's like New Zealand can't afford, or they basically won't be playing around lifesteal below that. Like the amount of life gain that comes with that, they won't be considering in their calculations.
Do you think this turn is the Alex Strasser turn from Jack Attack then?
Well, it's that, or you develop more minions with Twilight Drake, which has its merits. But you've seen a Spider Bomb, you've destroyed all the Hunter's Marks. It's a very, very good chance that there is just no answer.
The Blowback doesn't actually deal with the Alex Strasser though. Yes, it does heal them a little bit. The Brazil are going to want to find something to combo it with. Direwolf Alpha doesn't quite make the difference. But yeah, that can be played with the Tunneler, with the what's it called?
The Vile Brood Skitterer.
Skitterer, not Tunneler, yeah, that's the one. But there you go. That is the clear on the Alex Strasser. Jack Attack doesn't have lethal just yet.
So it's very important as he is 5 damage off lethal now with the Holy Fire double Mind Blast, and that does mean that Perna is going to have to be healing up every single turn. Thankfully though, he has a fantastic hand with which to heal.
Again though, the Zombies isn't... okay. I was going to say the Zombies isn't quite powerful enough to deal with the Twilight Drake, but New Zealand are playing more minions, which makes the Blowbat better.
Yeah. So the Blowbat is a...
Ja, lol.
Right, so it would have to attack into the... Yes, it would have to attack into the Twilight Drake in order to actually die and get the effect.
But that's fine.
Man, is that good. Killing off both the other minions as well, healing up for 3 and then 6, then 9 altogether.
Definitely puts Perna out of range one more time. He's even got Ziliax to follow up with next turn to heal for even more and deal with another minion. And Brazil can fit in hero power this turn.
Yeah, I think they're looking at a Devilsaur Egg because it's buffed up.
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah. Back up to 20.
Jo.
New Zealand's
Alles
quite
klar.
available. They're not too far off. They got 14.
Getting closer, but not quite there yet. And this is the point where Perna, if he gets any kind of reasonable zombies, Jack Attack might actually just need to find find Anduin himself, in order to get that chip damage through to face. Ooh.
Spider-Bomb's not bad, but no way of activating it this turn. Well, actually, Ziliax.
No death rattles at all.
Spider-Bomb, Ziliax is magnetic.
Oh, yeah.
It will have Divine Shield, so it won't die, but...
That's not a good combo. Just heal up for more.
It's still a lot of healing, yeah.
That's like 7 healing then, plus the 7 you probably get next turn as well.
Right, exactly. Whew. It's gotta be worth thinking about. Although people often forget that Spider-Bomb has magnetic, and I mean Ziliax also has magnetic, but...
And it's good to play the Ziliax first, because then if they get silenced, you
Jo,
get
genau.
They're doing it!
Lovely.
Ja, klar.
Clearing off the Primordial Drake thanks to the buffs on the Kellersan.
And it's somehow falling out of New Zealand's favour. The ridiculous amount of heal available to Brazil is pulling them back in this game. They're just going to have to find something pretty impressive soon, because now Perna doesn't need anything specific off of the zombies. He just needs stuff. He just needs to be able to play anything onto the board. And unless a Anduin can come down right now, there just won't be the damage to win the game, and there won't be the board presence to win the game either. This game has turned around an unbelievable degree.
Right, it looked like Brazil had no hope. They had a single card in their hand and no board. New Zealand's hand was full. But that's still correct, sir. That is what this card does. That's not what it used to do. That's still correct, sir. Used to do this card when it was first released in Knights of the Frozen Throne. The Hunter decks it was in, it had the lowest win rate. Nowadays, with these newer beasts, with all the lifesteal and all the rush,
like the 1 mana 2/2 Jewel Core.
Right.
That actually is 3 mana. Yeah, it really has just proven to be such a cornerstone of any strategy of Hunter at the moment. No matter what you're playing, apart from Odd Hunter, I guess, you play 29 cards plus Racer.
Na Junge. Was machst du denn da?
It's still important for Perna though to be drawing, or to be getting these as good a builder beast as possible.
Yeah.
Every single turn.
Needs to be worrying not one bit about fatigue. That actually is not necessary. He may very well just take it because it's the cheapest option, and that's generally the way you want to go with beasts.
If he did take the Raptor Hatchling and now take Swamp Leech, he can play all three of these beasts. Yeah, the zombies, the Devil Saw, and also the Red Zombies.
You maybe want to hold back one of them just because this is already a really good board he's got now, and he doesn't want to play too heavily into Psychic Scream or Shadow Vision Psychic Scream.
True. It's not like Perna is in a huge hurry to finish this game out just yet. Right. Still not been a Shadow Reaper Anduin. Alex Straza has been and gone, so the amount of damage in New Zealand's hand is limited.
Yeah, the fact that Alex Straza has already been played and they've healed all the way back up to 27 is such a huge factor in this game. But Shadow Reaper Anduin is the one card that I think could have pulled New Zealand really back into this game. They can now start to dominate the board as much as possible, and more importantly, get that damage through to face. They are starting right now, realizing the only way they're winning this game is through the burst to face.
Double Mind Blast plus the hero powers. That is 16 damage available to Jack Attack next turn.
And so double attack, this is perfectly set up. If they go hero power, holy fire, hero power, that's 9, which brings their opponent down to 16, I believe. And then double Mind
16.
Blast, that's exact lethal. Which means the heal had to be found by Brazil right now, and that Life Drinker is the exact effect that they needed.
Okay. Oh, okay, but that's still fine. It can be played next turn. Okay. Holding back on the heal is probably smart because Perna knows that he's not dead this turn.
Yeah.
So allow Jack Attack to have this false sense of security. Allow him to put everything possible to the face. Then put the surprise heal down.
They're not safe though, not quite yet.
No.
Even though they have the lifesteal from the Raptor Hatchling zombies, there's still more Mind Blast that can be found. There's one regular Mind Blast in the deck, I believe, plus a Shadow Visions, which could get another one.
Well, there's also the lifesteal, so that actually ruins the whole plan anyway.
Well, no, I mean, you just ping it you ping
man.
off the lifesteal guy, and then if you pick up another Mind Blast, you're still delivering lethal in the next couple turns.
But the original two-turn setup we were talking about.
Yes,
the existence of this lifesteal card means that is not possible.
Yeah, sorry, I was already considering the different line of play,
Primordial Drake, though, isn't looking too bad here. The Poisonous Divine Shield Direwolf does make it a little awkward, but it allows Jack Attack to play most of the board. The problem is, for New Zealand, it's not about just clearing the board now. They need to be dealing damage to the face. They need to be winning the game because they're not going to outvalue Deathstalker Rexar.
They're not going to outvalue Deathstalker Rexar, but they might just be able to sneak in a win. I honestly wouldn't be that surprised if they still do it. Because with the heal from the zombies on that turn, that's good. It gets them up to, what is that, 21, so they're only dying.
Oh no.
They would have to be 4 Mind Blasts for them to be dying after that heal. Which means triple Mind Blast, they still survive from where they're sat. But then next turn, if you can swart up with Primordial Drake and draw the second Mind Blast, Jack Attack has still managed to find a way to be in this game.
Zero 20 damage available to the bear if they drop a King Crush next to the Direwolf after making the attack.
Wow, okay.
So they're actually very close to just having lethal themselves.
Maybe they do just win. So close. And if they don't play this zombie, they will just be dying to triple Mind Blast. And I definitely imagine that they will be preventing that possibility.
I guess Jack Attack could find a second Psychic Scream now. Maybe that would.
I guess that's the out, right?
He could even. Doesn't think he can cross.
You don't die to King Crush right away, which means you could then go Psychic Scream, they King Crush you, and you draw the other copy of Mind Blast. There are still outs for New Zealand, but it has to come.
No way!
And Psychic Scream is the exact card they needed to stay in this game. How is this still going on?
New Zealand's answers are coming pretty late, but better late than never.
They need to be really cautious about whether they play this North
This would
How bad of a spot are we in? Do we need to play around Lifesteal Rush exactly in the form of Vicious Scalehide off the Rexar hero power? Because if they don't play that and draw Mind Blast, they just have exact lethal. And they are clearly discussing that exact fact right now. What does playing the cleric actually do? What out does that give them on the following turn, given that their opponent will it be at 18 rather than 19 out?
Well,
I honestly think you just don't play it.
I agree, it's just a question as to whether or not having this minion on the board would help deal with whatever beasts get played by Brazil next turn. But in reality, no, of course it won't. It's got one attack.
The shadows grow short.
Not even possible for a builder beast to have less than 2 health. They're playing it. Ziliax, that's the punish. Or one of the punishes.
Yeah. Which means on this turn, it doesn't have to be Grizzly into Ziliax. There's a very strong consideration here. They're playing Ziliax. That is being played.
50 Packungen für
Just Hero Power Ziliax Terrascale Stalker. I'm not sure. I don't really think the Stalker needs to be held on to it.
Oh no, sorry. They've already played one Mind Blast, so these 2 Mind Blasts are the last ones they have left.
That does explain
the
decision.
Yeah. And then that means that. Yeah, so this is the maximum amount of damage now that the other Holy Fire has been played. Okay. This still works out pretty poorly for them, allowing the Ziliax to attack through.
Right,
Ja, genau.
Yeah.
And even then, holding back the Cleric just for an extra ping on a future turn was definitely
Ja, nicht übertreiben.
Huh?
The other visions, but with all Mind Blasts having been found, that's not going to give them any more damage. There's not another visions in the deck, so they can't go for the infinite visions plus damage.
Wahrscheinlich.
There's so few cards left in Jack Attack's deck.
War das noch in den Extra-Karton oder war das so?
Das kam so an. Deswegen ist es ja nicht gerade 100%ig guten Zustand. Schweine.
Against them there, it's going to be very, very close, because if they don't play the Primordial Drake, then they're just going to be dead to the King Crush, and I think they're coming to that same conclusion now. They have to try and whittle their opponent's health total all the way down to 16, so that they die to the double Mind Blast.
The King Crush value trade is an option here. It would mean not making a builder beast this turn.
Eine Güte, ne.
They just need to be thinking though, how do we die?
Next.
Right.
They haven't seen both visions, so maybe they're thinking the remaining visions could discover a Mind Blast that was still in the deck. We obviously know that not to be the case. They're saying we don't need to go for any more lifesteal. We need to go for the throat and try to close out this game as quick as possible.
It's looking like a nice setup for a 2-turn lethal. There's very little the Jack Attack can do about this. Yes, there's a Twilight Acolyte, but there's no dragon to combo.
Nicht so hastig.
So it's impossible for them to get the
Das ist nicht, sei ja nicht hastig jetzt rum, aber irgendwie... Ist okay. Irgendwie wollte...
Ruby.
Also in eine andere Richtung.
That's it. No spells left in the deck. So Jack Attack manages to hold on for one more turn by pinging the King Crush whilst mind blasting the face.
Bringt doch noch gar nicht mehr.
Wenn der nicht die richtigen Karten auf der Hand hat, kann er nichts machen.
Any player menu with that Panther is the lethal. Brazil are now 2-0 up. One game away from advancing through to the finals.
That game was absolutely incredible. It looked like New Zealand won that game about 10 turns earlier. Brazil had no cards left in their hand. No threat.
Es ist anfassbar.
Naja, du hast ja vielleicht, ne? Du hast vielleicht spür nichts.
Immer kriegen die Priester nach die Fresse. Schrecklich. Ja, ein Priester.
The Murloc Mage, 100%, again, according to Jack Attack, is the most confident person in this building, I think. So Brazil really did not want to get to that last game.
Yeah, I mean, even APX Void just concedes that matchup. When he sees a Paladin, he just insta-concedes. I've seen him do it a couple of times.
Could be even Paladin.
Ein schöner Eindruck.
Wird schon schmecken, Morsi.
Das sagt ja mal nicht. Wäre ja eine Schande, wenn einfach nicht schmecken würde.
Morgen schmeckt er noch besser.
Das wäre noch was anderes.
Ach, der Schluck Specht, ja?
Hä?
Ja? Ja, du bist ja der, der sehr gerne isst. Wissen wir ja.
Klar, wenn ich schon 3 Schüsseln schon mal hatte. Hintereinander. Ja.
Der Junge hat schon 2 gewonnen. Was ist das? Gegen Australien spielen die, oder was?
Neuseeland.
Ach, Neuseeland, ja.
So anyone that hasn't been keeping up recently, Questro did lose a very important card. Oh, not lose, but yeah, lose a very important card. Inventor. It's been replaced by Laboratory, so which seems to be a staple now. But otherwise, there are so many tech reflex cards in Questro. Like, it's just that Stone's Ball's been put back in.
Well, yeah, it's the double mimic pod, double wax elemental. You play all the cards that sometimes were cut.
Right.
And I think Hunter has perfectly framed it for us about it the other day. You just want to play 28 cards now. You don't want to play all these cards in quest mode. Well, I suppose you'd like to play even less cards if possible, but they just don't really fit the core strategy. You want it to be as tight as possible in quest mode.
I've got to admit, Mage has had a great start here. He got the life drinker, as you said. That's one part of the Shadowwalk puzzle, which New Zealand's are going to be frantically trying to put together. But more importantly, they have the board. They have Brazil down to 20 health. They're playing a really impressive game here.
And as it currently stands, tempo Shadowwalk, whenever it would be played, would not even, like, already it's acceptable. You don't want to play it until you've got some chain gangs on the bed, so it starts copying, gets you some more 6/6s. But double MCT, the Glacial Shard, and the Life Drinker as well, is just a decently strong play if they have 5 or more minions on board. But obviously they don't even have the Shadowwalk in hand right now, so for the moment at least, they are going to be worrying about just still curving out as well as they possibly can.
Mr. Tortolana. Mr. Tortoloni.
And I think what that very possibly means on this turn isn't necessarily developing onto the board with their minions. It's clearing the runway. Just a lightning storm on this turn to get rid of these minions, push that damage through to face. Their hand at the moment is more removal than it is minions, so you should be using that removal to make the runway clear for your minions to attack face. You don't want to trade into this Elven Minstrel at all.
Clearly a tough decision for Mage, but there you go. It's actually going to be Hex. And I guess the earlier you play the Hex in this matchup, the better. You've got to play it before the quest gets activated. It's annoying that there's now a taunt in the way, I guess, because New Zealand wants to keep stalking Brazil down. Okay.
Yeah, that turn was close, and I can totally respect the line to go for Hex. Basically, anything on that turn from Mage that plays Hex or Lightning Storm,
yeah.
I like to learn.
It's only going to allow Lucas to clear up one of these minions. And also not even get that many procs on the quest.
This does feel like a very early Sonya.
Yeah.
Because obviously you've got the frog protecting it.
Yes, but that's irrelevant really. We're past turn 5. New Zealand has Lightning Storms, Volcanoes.
Yeah.
So I should imagine that this board is just going to get stormed away. But yeah, go ahead, drop the Acolyte.
Keeps it on the card. Yep. Definitely somewhat surprising there from Lucas. And it's not like they are now unable to complete the quest. They still have deckhand into Youthful Brewmaster, deckhand into Vanish, a whole bunch of ways to keep completing the quest, but it's relatively low tempo. If they're using the Southie deckhand and not killing off a minion and then bouncing it back to hand, this does seem to me like it's a way to maybe not giving them a quick enough quest completion, or not removing the minions quickly enough off the board.
It's not far off though.
It's not far off, I suppose. Next turn they can go
Well, they can just go deckhand handle now.
Yeah.
Next turn, deckhand to complete the quest.
So, jetzt geht's los.
Sorry, 2 Brewmasters on board does help this play a little bit, but now that Mage can clearly see quest completion is available next turn, I'd be very unsurprised to see another Lightning Storm on this turn, just to clear off what are going to be 4 4s next turn.
It's not amazing though.
It's not.
It's Lightning Storm hero power is the extent of it. Do you think Volcano is a consideration? Just because the Acolyte of Pain is on the board, clears up everything and also allows New Zealand to dig through the deck. Downside is obviously Volcano is much more valuable after the quest has been completed.
Yeah, it's not actually as bad as I thought it was at first glance, because if they wanted to go carrying on down the minion pressure route, obviously that would be bad.
Yeah.
If they just wanted to curve out and kill their opponent through damage. But I think they might actually have to give that up at some point soon and instead transition over to the Shudderwock route of victory, at which point drawing 3 cards off the Acolyte of Pain is really valuable.
Yeah.
And they agree, they are giving up on the route of simply killing their opponent with minions. And I think this is actually a pretty good spot by you, Falk, and a good line of reasoning. To go for getting rid of the minions, your opponent's playing 4 4s, you never win the board from here on in. Let's find that Shudderwock, which they've got.
They
Kannst du ein
have,
Kompliment
they're still
zaubern und
lacking
China
the
fällt über
Cyanide
Kreis
Chain
und
Gang and they're
interessiert
still
den Kind.
lacking the Grumble. These pieces are
Ja,
vital
das ist ja gut,
for Mage
Leute.
to
Ich
get
dachte
the
schon,
victory with that.
ich sag was Nettes
Then
und
again, Lucas is already down
das
to
war der
13
alte
health.
Wärter.
Yeah,
Die ganze Druck ab hier.
Was?
It's not a stretch to
Man
finish
kann
the
nicht.
Shadowwalk with a couple life drinkers
Der hat nicht mit dir geredet.
having the
Ach so,
power on
Entschuldigung.
board really could get the job done.
Chill.
that is true, but more important, I think, for New Zealand than finding the ability to complete the to get the Shudderwock fully activated soon, is to just stay
bestimmt.
alive. I think that's more important for
Ja, hat schon gesagt, ob morgen noch was da ist, wissen wir nicht.
Ironically now, where that volcano would have come in handy. Lightning
Ah,
Storm
ich
isn't
denke
going to
davon.
do the job like Volcano would have done. So for Mage, he can fast sign next turn, he can play Mana Tide Totem and start digging through the deck. I think this is the turn to do that, where he's not immediately looking dead. Ah, okay, hang on. Now Savino's looking good.
Yeah.
But then again, without the Grumble being
Na
activated,
kommt,
Shudderwock
macht
on turn
schneller.
one still
Mein
is not
Knäckebrot
going to win
wartet.
the game.
It's not, but it means that like outs are starting to become available.
There's been a shard played, there's been a mind control tech,
Yeah, a life
there's
drink.
been an ooze.
Has there been a news?
I thought they had that.
Oh.
Because there were 2 3/3s down there. Oh no, what was life drink?
Yeah.
Ignore me.
Yeah, so it does just mean now that with the chain gang being played, they could even go Farsight on the following turn to find the Grumble as well. And they are definitely going to be looking to get that as quick as they possibly can.
Speaking of as quick as they possibly can though, Lab Recruits are gonna just shuffle in these South Sea deckhands. There's 2 Novice Engineers, there's an Elven Minstrel. There's a high chance that Brazil
Jo,
draws some more damage
klar.
right now.
Nicht übertreiben hier.
I like this line of play. I was looking somewhat at the play of just going Vanish and then double deckhand, Shadow Step deckhand, because it pushes a lot of damage through to face.
Right.
But because you're returning chain gangs to your opponent's hand, which make
Was
more
zur
chain gangs,
Schwadronhölle.
and you start to wonder how long it truly can go on. I think I like the route where you get these as many deckhands as possible, and then you can just follow up with a Vanish in the next couple turns. Really nice.
Alright, things are looking hard for Mage here. He can play it,
Yeah.
especially with that Shadow Step.
Yeah.
Lightning Storm will deal
Junge!
with one of these deckhands.
Schon wieder ein Eier, Alter.
Wer?
Mind Control Tech will deal with another minion.
Brasilien
Again,
oder?
Raven can put it back up to
Ja,
30.
Brasilien soll mal sein Eier chillen, ey.
And he's just stalling though. Alternatively, Shudderwock. The Glacial Shard will freeze a minion. Mind Control Tech will take a minion. Then he'll heal for 3, he'll deal 3 damage. I think it has.
Shudderwock's a bit premature.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has to be the MC Tech play potentially. Oh, Electra Storm Surge!
That's pretty big.
Plus the Lightning Storm. That's almost a board clear. It just leaves the Wax Elemental alive.
Na
Does
Kumpel.
overload New Zealand next turn though.
Was machst du denn?
That's,
Was mit Mama?
It overloads them for 4, which means they can still play the
Finish.
Grumble off the top. And I think this is a good way to
Oh,
start things
fast
off. Let's
them,
just see what happens
That's
with the
sicher
Mind
eher so.
Control Tech, because you want that Battle Cry in the pool of Shudderwock minions
Yeah,
anyway.
right. Not the weakest minion, unfortunately. New Zealand would have loved to get the Wax Elemental from that. Are they considering not playing the Electra?
Los! Mach schon!
It's far too risky to leave.
Nicht so alarm!
Overloading for 6 is
Raus! Alles was rausgeht, raus!
next turn, but yeah, if like I see your point. If you go
Ist da vielleicht mal mit, wa?
next turn, yes, you might steal a couple of minions, but you've already taken an extra 12 damage in the meanwhile, which really doesn't make it worth it. But now with this line of play, deckhand through to face and then vanish. It's not quite getting there, but it is an awful lot of damage that can be pushed through.
That's 2
Yeah.
Consider the dagger as well.
Ja.
Oh no, of course.
No.
Entscheidung.
It's not a deckhand.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if Valera is worth considering here. It's
Very much consider it.
It's the slightly slower route, but it would allow Lucas to get a lot of damage next turn with double deckhand, prep, vanish, double deckhand.
Because their lines at the moment are either considering Valera this turn, and then you go double deckhand next turn, and then prep, vanish in the next few turns, whatever. You deliver a whole bunch of combo damage. Or the slightly quicker play, I suppose, of just developing your minions immediately, and then going for the vanish play on this turn.
Na klar.
And this does get a good amount of damage through to face. However, you are leaving your minions that little bit more vulnerable by just having them on the board. The deckhand can be cleared off by a volcano if it were to come down, but it is not currently even available, which means the only real route here for New Zealand, I guess, is to go Healing Rain Mana Tide and hope that that's enough to keep them alive.
I'm wondering about Healing Rain mind control tech, just so that the Shuttlewalk has an extra density tech in the pool. Maybe it's just not necessary at this stage,
2 is
though.
probably enough, I think, at this point.
Yeah, the board's not going to go that wide. Again, Giggling Inventor is gone.
Yeah.
Na komm, beendet.
So yeah, with that being said, I believe Healing Rain Mana Tide might even be the only real play this turn. If they could preemptively set up the Hagatha so that Shuttlewalk could start Hagathering the board every single turn, that'd be great, but it's just not possible.
But none of this even deals with the deckhand that they have on board. Yeah, they come to the conclusion that they are always pressing the Healing Rain.
Yeah.
Maybe they could consider going for Hero Power and Deckhand just because it might get a taunt. Or even with the Mind Control tech, I guess maybe they do want the extra activation in the pool.
How wide could this board possibly go, though? Oh, Mimic Pod, there are still deckhands around in the deck.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that because I would have thought they'd be digging as quickly as they could for Grumble or Life Drinker to try and get a surprise lethal.
Your shard not going to do anything too relevant right now. In fact, Lucas, if he plays these in the hopes of setting up for lethal next turn, he just get punished by the Shuttlewalk.
That is true. The fact that he has another Vanish, I think, means he can be much more willing to let his opponent go wide on the board. And they are still just really hoping to find anything that can duplicate or make sure they play again these South Sea deckhands to get that damage through to face that a little bit quicker. They're just wondering about how best to go about that.
Was zögerst du jetzt?
I like the holding back of Vanish for the moment though, because you already have...
Meine Güte.
So they... look like they've played there.
I like holding back, because again, I think the one way that this goes wrong is if Shaman somehow manages to steal board from you.
I actually think holding back everything is great, because I'm sitting there counting Novice Engineer. If the Glacial Shard gets played, that's 2 minions that get stolen by the Shuttlewalk, but this way, Mind Control Tech doesn't do anything. Shuttlewalk itself doesn't really do that much at all.
Yeah.
Hagatha Glacial Shard is a very real option now, though, and would set up for a better Shuttlewalk next turn.
They've come to that same conclusion. That does make me wonder if we should have seen Valera at the start of that turn, because, okay, if they're playing Mimic Pod at the start, they should have come to the conclusion already that they're never going to play any minion that they draw unless it delivers the Bleether, which I don't even think there was anything they could have gotten that would have done that. So why not just play the Valera the Hollow to set up for a better play next turn, more likely to deliver you lethal?
It does feel like Valera's been sitting there for quite a long time. I wonder if they're afraid of playing Valera and then having the weapon removed, which would prevent all of the deckhands from being able to charge into the face.
That's a good point.
That's the only reason I can think of why they'd want to hold it back for this long.
Well, now finally Hagatha comes down. Maybe she can deliver some magic with whatever she's got brewing in her potion. An unstable evolution. I don't know, maybe some charges could come out of that to try and pull this back, but now, with how much damage can even go through 8, and then Vanish brings it up to 12, still no lethal available on this turn, as close as it may be getting.
Not the mana for lethal. Like, Zolaring the deckhand, replaying it, playing the Vanish would really set stuff up for later on.
But yeah, I like the copying of the deckhand a lot from Zola. They just need to set up a position where removal has to be used incredibly inefficiently.
But now the Shudderwalk. Okay, this is going to be very random, because if Hagatha goes off first, nothing gets stolen. If something gets stolen that's got 1 health, it didn't matter anyway. If one of the 4/4s gets stolen, or 2 of the 4/4s get stolen by the Shudderwalk, the things are starting to look okay for New Zealand?
I don't know. I think that Lucas, by going incredibly wide here, has really beautifully played around what Shudderwalk can even do. Because even if 3 minions get stolen here, there's still a lethal potential available on the very next turn. And now it is going to have to be the Shudderwalk coming down from New Zealand. Can they manage to find a victory here with these many mind control techs?
Okay, not the worst possible order, but that was pretty bad. Okay. Earthshock! Earthshock picked up from the Shudderwalk. That does save them.
Because of the freeze on the face.
Amazing! It leaves Lucas 1 mana off lethal. Well, sorry, 1 damage off lethal. Shadow Step drawn. That's going to do it. Brazil have secured their place in the Hearthstone Global Games Grand Finals. They will be facing off against China to determine who is the best country in Hearthstone. And this was a spectacular series, but come on, that was a thriller. What a phenomenal performance.
Reden gewinnt.
Just an unbelievable display, a continuation of the dominance that Brazil have been showing all the way throughout the global games. They have lost only 1 series so far throughout the entire tournament and are just showing absolutely no signs of stopping.
I have to say to you, Derek, I'm feeling a little bit biased here. I'm just going to let it out.